Hey there, hey, it's Nathan, and I just wanted to talk some college football as the season continues on and starts to approach the postseason. I was also going to briefly talk about some cultural issues or political topics as well, especially the ones that have coincided with sports. So first, I just have some brief thoughts about college football overall. It definitely seems like this area of the sport has really taken off recently, perhaps in the last decade or so. It seems to have really seen growth and increased excitement level. Although perhaps college football always was like this and I just hadn't really discovered it yet. Either way, it seems like there's been quite a few subtle changes lately that has really benefited the game. Many of the top teams, top schools are really entertaining to watch and provide some very high quality football. In fact, sometimes I wonder how the top teams in college football would stack up against some of the NFL teams. I have noticed some small differences when it comes to college football and the NFL. I mean, it does seem like scoring output and number of big plays tends to be a little higher in college football. This could be due to a multitude of reasons, such as more space for running backs and perhaps more access for receivers to get open. I will say, though, that the NFL has definitely changed as well and become more action-packed in recent years, too. I mean, I can already think of some incredible games in the NFL from this year, even, that has really demonstrated this quite emphatically. In addition, there's more mobile and crafty QBs, more offensive-minded teams, more trick plays, more fourth down tries, more aggressive play calls. Not to mention defenses seem to have really seen an adjustment as well, with more widely known players and increased recognition. I mean, I'd even say defensive end might be one of the more coveted positions in football now. Back to college football, I definitely say the top 25 system is a fantastic asset and valuable element to the game with a way to really hype up teams and games, as well as providing a much more manageable method to follow the teams, especially with such a high number of schools in the country. The college football playoff is another superb addition, a way to add excitement to the game and really provide a means to incorporate and recognize just how many top-level teams there are in college football. I think expanding the playoff is an excellent decision and will really benefit the game as well, as there usually seems to be many high-quality teams that are fully capable of really making an impact in a postseason environment. Overall, I'd say college football is in a fantastic spot right now with an exciting future ahead. So just going through some of the teams, I'd say Georgia has really solidified itself as one of the top teams in the country right now, if not the top team in the country, and just continues to play phenomenal football. They just have a sense of being unstoppable and seem very, very difficult to beat. They just always seem to have a tough team, especially when it comes to their offensive and defensive lines. It usually just seems like trying to get past a wall. Now, although this may not be my favorite style of football team, I will say it most definitely leads to victories, and it's a sight to behold. The pure dominance that Georgia displays. They're really starting to build a dynasty here, especially if they can get a three-peat this year. They just seem to have the qualities and attributes needed to maintain and achieve excellence and wins consistently year after year. Kirby Smart has also really put himself in the same tier as the other great coaches in football and continues to show his prowess when it comes to coaching and leading this team to greatness. They really have some top-level talent on the team and most definitely seem to have done and continue to do a great job recruiting. I will say, though, at times it does appear that a lot of the top programs acquire many of the top prospects. And so most of all the top talent may end up on only a few teams, making it very difficult for any other programs to truly compete with the top schools. Even though this may be one of the most parity-filled seasons in college football, it still seems like there's only a very select few of schools that truly have a chance at winning the national championship. Although this may be completely all right in any given year, to me things can start to shift when it continues for a more extended period of time. I mean, I can't really see Georgia having a fall anytime soon. It can start to take away from the excitement of the game as viewers start to just say, oh, well, Georgia's just going to win it again this year. Or any other of the powerhouse teams. I mean, I'd say this would definitely discourage and dishearten other teams in college football as well. As it stands now, it definitely feels like it would be difficult to say that a school from any other conferences would be able to truly compete for a national title, even looking ahead to the future. I see this in other sports as well, especially in soccer, where the Top clubs just continuously maintain their position at the top of the rankings, while also compiling absolutely stacked rosters. I do see some solutions being offered in leagues like the NBA, for example, like salary caps and perhaps contract limitations, and maybe they have some of these limitations in college football as well. But it does still seem like the top schools continuously find their way to that trophy at the end of the season. It seems like the precedent displayed to those watching, and to the young ones as well, could be at the moment that only the high and mighty will achieve victory, or said in another way, as it is now, Goliath will always win. I will counter myself a little bit here, though, and say that it can be very beneficial to the game to have some known quantities in the sport, whether that be teams or players. It can give the audience something to rally behind, allows a more accessible means of following the game, and can provide some structure to the game as well. I've seen this in other sports, for example, in this era of tennis, where there's more of a complete sense of parity in the tour. But I've definitely seen that this can actually result in less excitement for the sport, as there's not as many players or known quantities to really follow and root for at a consistent basis. Also, many times in sports, things can kind of even itself out in time. For example, a team may see success for a period of time, but eventually another team or other teams will start to see success as well, naturally through time. Also, football may not be every college school's main focus. They may take pride in other areas like their academics or other avenues. These top programs can also serve as a goal for many other teams, a way for other programs to strive for improvement, to reach this level of success and greatness. It can also serve as a goal for individuals and players as well to work and improve on their own attributes, to reach a level where they're able to play for these top programs. Not to mention, Georgia may not even be receiving all the top prospects, and even if they do have a number of them, as a program, they still have to know how to go out there and win football games. Overall, it is most definitely enjoyable, at least to me, and a spectacle to see how these top teams build their programs, display absolute dominance, and continue to go out there and achieve victory. Michigan is most definitely another powerhouse team that has just done exceedingly well in recent years. It's nice to see Jim Harbaugh, especially coming off a storied NFL career, do this well and find such success in college football as well. They also seem to have consistently tough teams lately, and I think they could definitely be one of the programs to really take it to Georgia this year. They have run into some difficulties in the college football playoff in recent years, however, but the competition is always going to be high in this environment. Although they are having some issues currently in terms of scouting teams and sign stealing, I think overall they have a tremendous team, and it will be very interesting to see how they do this year, to see if they can win that national title. Just to relay some stats, at the time I'm writing this, they've only allowed 6.7 points per game, which is first in the entirety of college football, and have also only allowed it 231.4 yards per game, which is also first in all of college football. This definitely shows just how outstanding of a team Michigan has this year, and also how important defense can be in the sport of football. Ohio State is yet another powerhouse team that is just having another amazing year. It's been very impressive to see Ryan Day take over for Urban Meyer so successfully. I think overall it can be very challenging to take the mantle as something, especially in a position of this importance and a program of this magnitude. Not to mention maintaining the exceedingly high level that Urban Meyer and the program has been able to put forth. But Ryan Day has done an absolutely phenomenal job. Ohio State also has this tough demeanor about them, and I feel can also achieve postseason success and even win the national championship. At the time I'm writing this, they are currently ranked first in the polls right now. Ohio State also has an outstanding defense, among other attributes, ranking second in points allowed at 10.7 points per game and fifth in yards allowed at 271.1 yards per game. Next up is Florida State, which has quite suddenly skyrocketed to the top of the standings very quickly this year. Definitely seems like they must have some fantastic new players or something, because they are just having a tremendous year. It does seem to harken back to the times when they also had great teams in the past. I'll definitely need to watch more of this team to really get a feel for how they're so good this year. It'll definitely be intriguing to see how they stack up against other top teams in the country, and to see just how far they can go this year. Texas is another team like Florida State that has really skyrocketed to the top of their rankings this year as well. They haven't been this good in a while, so it's been great to see them do this well. As a Texas native, it's overall always nice to see other Texas teams do well, and there's really been quite a few of them that have had fantastic teams in recent years. like Baylor, TCU, and Texas A&M. It does feel like there is a culture of football in the state of Texas, even finding its way to the high school level as well, with excellence and tremendous teams here too. They did have a tough game against Oklahoma, but so far this has really been the only low point this season. I do also have to say that the game overall was a fantastic game. I still think they can make their way back and perhaps get in the college football playoff, as they've still been playing some great football. Overall, I think it can be very difficult for college football teams competing for the postseason, as there is very little room for losses or off games. I mean, just one loss could mean your chances of getting in are completely gone. In comparison, in the NFL, a team can go even and still be able to make their way into the postseason and into the playoffs. Next is Alabama. I've always been impressed by their sheer and absolute dominance and the level of football that they display. Nick Saban is truly a master of his craft, and it's been magnificent to see how he leads his team and how he's able to build and maintain such excellence and success. For me, it has been interesting to see the perhaps vitriol and discontent towards the program, as it does seem like they are usually at a lower ranking, especially in recent years, and really have to fight their way to postseason victories and even into the college football playoff itself. However, it may have been a bit before my time when it appears they may have just took over college football with their dominance. I do feel like they have many close games, especially in recent years when it doesn't seem completely necessary. It always feels like it's going to come back to get them, either in the game itself or in future games. And I think it actually has in quite a few circumstances. I also get the feeling sometimes that they aren't perhaps playing at their full capability, especially when it comes to defensive plays. I think this can happen often, though, with many top programs, but it has been something that I've noticed maybe happening and can make the game more of a challenge to win. I've also noticed that Alabama usually has an exceedingly difficult strength of schedule, with a multitude of top teams on their slate, especially compared to other programs. So schedules and how they're compiled is definitely of interest, especially when there seems to be such difference between the programs. Overall, though, I can still see them making a postseason run this year, and, well, it's always going to be difficult to count out Alabama. Then there's Colorado. Colorado is another team that has been very interesting to watch, especially with Deion Sanders arriving to coach the program. I do have to say that he's definitely really been able to make a significant impact on the program, especially when looking at how they started the season, and also looking at the records that they've had in past years. Shedeur Sanders has also been playing very well and looks to be a force in college football this year and moving forward. At this time, he's currently third in the entire country in passing yards at 2,882. It can be an interesting dynamic to have father and son, or any kind of connection like this on the same team, but it seems to usually work out well and seems to have definitely been working out well in Colorado as well. More often than not, it can take time for a team or a new situation to truly reach the level that it is capable of, and I'm very intrigued to see where this Colorado team can go. So there's definitely been times when sports and politics, these two realms intersect, whether purposely or non-purposely. I think this can be a delicate matter and really a battle to navigate and incorporate in a way that will be perceived as satisfactory. I just wanted to go through some of the different topics that have come up in this area and provide some brief thoughts on them. Equality has been one of these topics that have been widely discussed, making its way into not only sports, but as a significant aspect of society itself. To me, it does seem just and honorable that we all work towards a more equal world and society. I mean, it seems like inequity in the world can only breed envy and negative emotion. The sports world has made great strides in this department where it seems like, at least at this point, there's more of a concerted effort to make this more of a reality. However, with many things, and especially in politics, there are counterpoints to be had with these topics, at least with certain facets of them. Oftentimes, it seems like politics is just one big argument, with no end in sight. Briefly touching on equal compensation, it does seem only fair that this should be received for all athletes, male or female, for providing a similar product and enacting practically the same profession. Not to mention a similar, if not the same, amount of success and accolades attained, especially on particular teams. However, this may not factor in other facets like total revenue and audience numbers for a particular side. Also may not factor in small differences in which the game is played. Also, overall, with many careers and professions, there's oftentimes some sort of trade-off to be had. So an individual may be doing something they have a passion for, but the salary might not be as high. With many factors involved, Ultimately, a big question here is how equality matters should really be decided, the parameters that should be considered or not considered, and if there's really one true answer to this determination. The transgender movement is another significant topic that has been occurring today as well. It does seem like the world and society is constantly shifting and changing with a multitude of culture changes and additions alongside it. So it seems like it can be a great challenge, but many times beneficial for the infrastructure of society to kind of keep up with these culture changes and adjust and change as well. It does seem like there has been a new emergence in the transgender movement and the entire LGBTQ+ movement as well in recent times. Oftentimes it seems like there can be some initial issues or growing pains when dealing with any kind of new change. And it does appear that transgender athletes in sports has been one of these situations. It does seem respectable and ethical to push acceptance in themes like this when making decisions on this matter. It also makes sense that there would be a bit, or a lot, of an unfair advantage when it comes to the competitiveness of the transgender athlete and the other athletes in the competition. In addition, that athletes in the locker room may feel uncomfortable with a transgender athlete in the area. It's a difficult situation, and every situation has differences to it. But I would say, especially with much of what has happened recently, and with all of the personal testimony as well, it may be best to strive for an environment where all athletes can feel comfortable, as well as fair and just competition. Diversity and inclusion is yet another greatly significant topic that has found its way into the sports world as well. In sports, it seems like hiring practices is one of the primary areas where this topic has occurred in. It seems like with many situations, the overall foundation can be just and positive. However, there can also usually be side effects or a flip side as well. It may be beneficial for diversity's sake to hire certain races or ethnicities. I mean, with so many different kinds of people in the world, it does seem respectable and a decent thing to do, to incorporate all these different cultures and backgrounds. However, it may also harm another person's chances, someone that may have been a better fit, someone that prepared and worked hard for the position, someone that could have been hired completely by merit. To me, I can already see quite a bit of natural diversity in these areas as it is, and forcing any kind of quota like this may actually not result in the best environment for the team and for the actual individual as well. On the topic of kneeling on the field and other such demonstrations, I think these kind of displays, when done in this manner, can actually be very important and can really be a powerful message in showing where society, our country, and the world stands. I think it can also be important or wise to be aware of exactly how these displays are being carried out. For example, in this particular circumstance, the American flag and national anthem symbolizes so much and carries with it great meaning to so many people. With this in mind, it can be beneficial at times to make it known that society may not be where it could be, or that things could perhaps be a little better. In addition, this can also assist in preventing stagnation or even decline. Sometimes one act can mean quite a lot. Sports does have an absolutely huge audience, and with it does have quite an opportunity to perhaps portray a little more than the usual to really enact change and have an effect on the world. However, I do think that things can start to take a turn if there's a perceived shift in intention. For example, if these displays start to seem more self-centered in nature as opposed to it continuing to be for the original purpose. I mean, it definitely can start to take away from the sport itself, too, shifting focus to something other than what audiences are expecting. Also, it does seem like when these types of things start to drag on or continue for an extended period of time, the tone does start to shift into a more negative direction as well. I think these changes of tone and feel can be subtle, but it seems to make a very noticeable difference. Praying on the field has been another significant topic as well in recent times, especially as it pertains to the coach that was praying after games. It does seem quite much or very unwarranted how this was all carried out. It feels like this act can really only bring about warmth, energy, and positivity to all those involved. There has and continues to be great strides in promoting and maintaining freedom in this country, something that sets us apart from others around us, and so it just doesn't seem sensible to restrict any kind of act like this. It seems like an attempt to enforce some kind of control over something, as has perhaps started to make its way into other aspects of society as well in recent times. If it's not harming anybody or directly affecting the results of the game, then there really shouldn't be too much of an issue here. It does seem like a concerted attempt to shut something down, without sufficient or really any reason behind it. In addition, it begins to feel like there is ulterior motive behind these decisions, yet another significant element that seems to have made its way into society more frequently lately as well. Another major topic here revolves around tradition versus change, especially as it relates to team name changes in similar venues. It seems like this can start to lead to a slippery slope, where everything starts to seem like it has some negative connotation to it. I think we would really need to go back and look at the origin of these teams and other aspects to really get a true feel for how these organizations were created. Overall, in society, it seems like there's an automatic assumption now that all intentions or aspects are sinister or negative. And, well, this can make the world an exceedingly difficult place to live in. There's something special about keeping tradition, about enacting and continuing something that has such a rich history. Additionally, overall, tradition can create excitement and a kind of anticipation. Without these kinds of traditions, it seems like the world would be kind of flat or dull, where everything would just be for the purpose of getting tasks done, without any added spark to really provide life and vigor. Also, it also seems like when things start to change more and more, it starts to lose its luster. The significance of that which was changed doesn't seem as important or significant anymore. It also starts to feel like these changes seem to have a taint to it, especially in this circumstance where it feels like there could be other elements involved, like self-righteousness, and even just with the knowledge of the situation and why something was changed, particularly here. So it doesn't really invoke a great feeling when looking at that which was changed. So it may have succeeded in its goal, but it still doesn't really bring about a positive feeling. Change can be good for the world and society. Society and culture continues to change as well. It can keep the world fresh and exciting and enables a more thriving society. It can also greatly enhance and improve many aspects of society as well, and aid and help people too. But I feel like all change isn't necessarily good or beneficial, depending on the situation, and should strive to, I believe, lead to an overall sense of positivity. Battle can take on many forms and be multifaceted. There are many different kinds of battles and fights that can be fought, whether on the battlefield, in politics, in society, on the football field, and within ourselves. Fighting in battle can carry with it many different aspects. For one, I think it is important to think about some of the downsides to battle. To really think about what battle and fighting can result in, especially when it comes to war, and even between people or inner communities. If there is some kind of conflict or disagreement, to really think about if this method is completely necessary or not necessary. It has been said that this should really be a last resort when it comes to finding solutions. However, if it is necessary, to really focus on taking care of the issue, and to remedy the situation, as opposed to dragging it out, resulting in more casualties and negativity. And to not just battle or fight just to fight, but to really have good reason behind it, with a goal and intention to end and finish the fight. To fight so that we make what is around us a better place, as opposed to battling for more negative and destructive purposes. For I do think there is also another side, or element, to fighting and battle. With all the injustice in the world, it can be a way to fight back against this and work for a more just society. Fighting to make our communities around us better and more vibrant. To fight against many of the world's biggest issues and problems. Fighting for a bright future, one filled with justice and positivity. To keep fighting for a more vibrant world, so that when the world seems bleak and dark, there's fight within us to discover ways that this may be different. To find ways so that there is a bright future on the horizon. Fighting to maintain the values and beliefs that has made our society and people thrive and prosper. To fight for a good cause, a just cause. An opportunity for people to really come together against something, to work together against a common goal as opposed to quarreling amongst ourselves. An opportunity to find community, to, at least for a moment, go against an increasingly individualistic world. It can also be a way to incorporate a mindset that overcoming challenges and obstacles can be achieved, whether in the world around us or in ourselves. To keep fighting when the going gets rough. To keep fighting when it appears that there is failure. To keep fighting when the odds are stacked against us. A mindset that can be gleaned from battling on the football field that can also be incorporated in our world, in ourselves, and in much of the political and cultural issues surrounding us. A goal to prevail, to subdue that which stands opposed, to make a comeback when it doesn't seem plausible, to work together to find success. A mindset that says it is possible, and strives to overcome obstacles, to master hardships, to find triumph, to achieve victory.